Hello friends, welcome back to the part 4 of chapter 7, the Battle of Naushera. Today we are going to discuss about the insights of the Battle of Naushera. But friends, before delving into the topic per se, I have a simple request for each of you. If you are here, it means you are serious about gaining knowledge, and I applaud that. Now to make sure that you get the most out of this journey, I urge you to watch every single video in this series sequentially, yes, in order. That's how you will absorb the full scope of what is being presented. And of course, I must remind you to don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Your support helps us to keep bringing the valuable content directly to you. And by sharing, you are helping others access this information as well. Friends, here is something more exciting. I'll be sending questions and answers your way. Yes, a chance for you to interact, respond, and engage directly with the content. And once your answers comes in, I'll be sharing them with all of you as a learning resource. But remember friends, you need to leave your comments under the specific video along with your email ID. However, there is one catch. Only those who have subscribed to this channel can participate. Now you are among the fortunate ones to have started early. You have taken the first step, so let's make sure you prepare thoroughly. So thoroughly that you won't need to turn back to your books ever again. This entire effort, every bit of it, is to help you understand the content in depth, to make the learning process as clear and seamless as possible. So once again, do like, share and subscribe to this channel. Stay engaged, stay informed, and let's make the journey a successful one together. Let's start about the Battle of Naushera, an overview. Ladies and gentlemen, the Battle of Naushera was not just another skirmish. It was a turning point in 1947-48 conflict between India and Pakistan. Imagine this, it's February 1948 and the region is tense. Pakistani forces along with the tribal militias have set their sight on Naushera in Kashmir. Their mission, to break through the Indian defense and gain a strategic foothold. But the Indian army under the leadership of Brigadier Mohammed Usman was prepared. They knew this battle could change everything and they were determined to hold the line. The stakes could not have been higher. Despite being outnumbered, the Indian forces fought with incredible tenacity. They were not just defending a town, they were defending a nation's honor and sovereignty. And here is where it gets interesting. Against all odds, the Indian army managed to repel the attackers. It was not easy and it came at a great cost. But they succeeded. This victory at Naushera was more than just a win on the battlefield. It was a huge morale booster for India and a clear signal that they could stand their ground no matter the challenge. So why does this matter? The Battle of Naushera was a game changer. It stopped Pakistani advances in its track and set the stage for future operations. It was a moment that showed the world that India could and would defend its territory. And this turning point, my friend, had lasting implications for the region, echoing even to this day. Let's move deeper into the topic. Friends, for better assimilation and ease of understanding, let's break down the Battle of Naushera, the one of the most pivotal moments in 1947-48 conflict between India and Pakistan. It's early 1948 and Pakistani forces, backed by the tribal militias, launched a massive assault on Naushera, a critical gateway to the Kashmir Valley. The Indian army led by Brigadier Mohammed Usman stands firm despite being outnumbered. From holding the line at the Tain Dhar to countering fierce attack at the Kot and Kangota, the Indian troops showcased remarkable resilience and tactical brilliance. With timely artillery and air support, they launched a counter-offensive, capturing the strategic radiant features and turning the tide of the battle. This victory was more than just a defense, it was a statement. India demonstrated its ability to protect its territory, delivering a significant blow to the Pakistani forces and boosting national morale. Let's discuss one by one. First, we'll discuss about the Battle of Naushera per se. Alright, let's dive into the Battle of Naushera, a battle that truly changed the game. Picture this, it's early 1948 and the situation in the Kashmir is tense. Pakistani forces along with the tribal militias are making a bold move, trying to break through the Indian defenses. But what happens next? The Indian army under the leadership of Brigadier Mohammed Usman delivers a stunning blow. This was not just any battle, it was a decisive victory. The Indian forces, despite facing overwhelming odds, stood their ground and sent a clear message. India will defend its territory no matter what. This victory was not just about winning a battle. It was about lifting the spirits of a young nation. It showed the world that India had the military prowess and the determination to protect its sovereignty. The Battle of Naushera was not just a win, it was a turning point. It boosted the national morale and proved that India could hold its own in the face of aggression. This battle set the tone for the conflict ahead and left an indelible mark on the history of the region. Let's get into why Naushera was such a big deal in 1947-48 conflict. Picture this. Naushera is not just any town. It is a strategic key location. Think of it as a gateway to the Kashmir Valley. Whoever controls Naushera has a huge advantage. It's like having the key to the entire region. For the Indian army, holding on to Naushera was crucial. They knew that losing it would mean giving up a vital entry point to Kashmir, which could change the entire game. On the other hand, for Pakistani forces, capturing Naushera was a top priority. Why? Because it would open up the access to the valley and give them a strategic upper hand in the conflict. So when we talk about the Battle of Naushera, we are not just talking about the fight over a small town. We are talking about a battle for the location that could control the future of Kashmir. Both sides understood this, and that's why they fought so fiercely. This was not just about territory, it was about securing a position that could decide the fate of the region. Let's dive into the what Battle of Naushera really showed us about the Indian army. This was not just about winning a battle, it was a clear demonstration of India's military capabilities. Think of it as a statement, a bold one at that. At Naushera, the Indian army didn't just hold their grounds. They executed a complex operation with incredible precision and skill. Facing a tough enemy and challenging terrain, they showed they could plan, strategize, and deliver results. This was not just luck or sheer force, this was about careful preparation and brilliant execution. And here is the thing, the victory at Naushera was just the beginning. It set the tone for what was to come, foreshadowing the Indian army's success later in the war. It was a moment that proved India was not just capable but formidable. The Indian army showed the world that they could stand up to any challenge, plan meticulously, and come out on top. And this was a turning point that boosted confidence and laid the groundwork for future victories. Moving ahead, let's discuss about the background and the initial preparation. Alright, let's talk about the background and the initial preparation of the Battle of Naushera. This is where Brigadier Mohammed Usman truly shines. Picture this, a leader who leaves nothing to chance. Brigadier Usman knew that to defend Naushera, he need more than just bravery. He need a solid plan. So what did he do? he started with detailed intelligence gathering. Brigadier Usman made sure that he understood every aspect of enemy's movement and intentions. He left no stone unturned, gathering crucial information that would shape his strategy. Then came the strategic positioning of his troops. He didn't just place them randomly. Every soldier, every piece of artillery was positioned with a purpose. He anticipated where the enemy could strike and prepared his defenses accordingly. This was not just about reacting. It was about being ready before the battle even began. Thanks to Brigadier Usman's meticulous planning and sharp foresight, the Indian army was well prepared to defend Naushera. They were ready for whatever come their way, and that preparation made all the difference when the battle began. This was not just a good leadership, it was a strategic brilliance. Now let's understand why Naushera was so important in 1947-48 conflict. Imagine Naushera as a gateway to the Kashmir Valley. Whoever controlled the Naushera held the key to the entire region, and that's why this small town became such a critical background. For both India and Pakistan, securing Naushera was about more than just occupying territory. It was about strategic dominance. If you had Naushera, you controlled access to the Kashmir Valley, a region of immense strategic and symbolic value. It was like holding the front door to your house. You just could not let it fall into the wrong hands. This is why both sides were so determined to secure Naushera. For Indian Army, it was about defending a vital entry point and ensuring the security of Kashmir. And similarly for the Pakistani forces, capturing Naushera would mean gaining a significant advantage in the conflict. So the Battle of Naushera was not just a piece of land. It was a fight for control over the entire region. A strategic chess move that could shape the outcome of the conflict. The stakes were incredibly high, and both sides knew that whoever controlled Naushera controlled the gateway to Kashmir. Alright, let's make this crystal clear by looking at the map of Naushera region. Imagine Naushera right in the front of you. This is not just any town, it is strategically located, surrounded by rugged hills and narrow valley, acting as a crucial gateway into the Kashmir Valley. Now if you look at the map, we can see why Naushera was such a big deal. It is positioned along essential supply routes and situations at the key access point leading into the Kashmir. You can see the winding roads and the challenging terrain that made it a perfect spot for controlling movement in and out of the valley. And here is why this matters. Holding Naushera gave our Indian Army a huge advantage. They could monitor any advancing forces and protect the valley from potential takeover. On the other hand, the Pakistani forces knew that capturing Naushera would open up the direct routes into the Kashmir, giving them a strategic edge in the conflict. So when you are looking at the map, you are not just seeing the lines and symbols. You are seeing the story of a battle of control. A fight for the critical gateway that could decide the fate of the entire region. And this map helps us to understand why Naushera was focused for such intense fighting. Both sides knew that whoever controlled Naushera controlled access to the Kashmir Valley. Moving next, let's discuss about the next topic, that is about the enemy attack. Let's set the scene for the enemy's surprise move. It was early hours of February 6th. Still dark outside, while most of the world was asleep. The enemy forces were on the move, launching a surprise assault on Naushera. And this was not just a random attack, it was a carefully timed to catch the Indian army off guard. Imagine the tension. The Indian troops not expecting an attack at that hour, suddenly facing an intense onslaught. The timing was a shock tactics designed to throw the Indian defenses into chaos and gain an upper hand. The enemy wanted to break through quickly and capture these strategic locations before the Indian army could regroup and respond. But here is the thing. Despite the surprise and initial chaos, the Indian troops didn't panic. They quickly adapted, showing remarkable resilience and courage under pressure. The timing of the attack have been unexpected, but the Indian Army response showed that they were prepared for any challenge that came their way. This moment tested their readiness and resolve, and they rose to the occasion. Now let's talk about what the Indian Army was up against during the Battle of Naushera. Picture this. The Pakistani forces were not just a small group. They came in with over 5,000 troops. And it was not just infantry, they had artillery and armored units too. This was a well-equipped and a formidable force ready to take on the defenders. Think about the scale of this challenge. The Pakistani forces were bringing serious firepower to the battle. They had a mix of infantry soldiers, powerful artillery to bombard positions, and armored units to break through defenses. And this was not just a basic attack, it was a full-scale assault with everything they had. For the Indian Army, this meant facing a large, diverse, and a well-prepared enemy. The odds were daunting. The strength and the composition of Pakistani forces posed a real and immediate threat. It was not just about numbers, it was about the kind of heavy firepower they were bringing to the battlefield. But despite this formidable challenge, the Indian Army stood firm. They knew that what they were up against, and they were ready to defend Naushera with everything they had. This battle was a test of will, strength, and strategy, and both sides brought their best to the fight. Alright, let's talk about how the Battle of Naushera began. Picture this. It is the early morning of February 6th. The enemy forces launch a massive assault on Naushera. They didn't hold back, they came in with everything they had. The attack started with a heavy bombardment, artillery shelling raining down, creating chaos and destructions. And right after that, their ground troops moved in, trying to overwhelm the Indian positions with sheer force. It was a brutal, all-out attack designed to crush the Indian defenses quickly and take control of the Naushera. The noise, the explosions, the pressure, it was intense, a real test of nerve and strength. But here is what it gets inspiring. Despite this fierce initial battle, the Indian Army stood firm. They didn't panic, they didn't falter. They held their ground with incredible resolve and bravery. The Indian soldiers were ready for this, and they were determined to defend Naushera at all cost. So while the enemy thought they could easily overpower the Indian defenses, they were met with fierce resistance. The Indian Army's resolute defense proved that Naushera would not be an easy win. This was not just about holding a town, it was about showing strength, courage, and an unyielding spirit right from the start. The initial assault might have been fierce, but our Indian response was even stronger. Now let's zoom in one of the most heroic moments of the Battle of Naushera, the defense at Tain Dhar. Picture this. The enemy was relentless, launching a wave after wave of attacks, trying to break through the Indian positions. And standing in their way was Naik Jadunath Singh and his troops. Naik Jadunath Singh, a name that had become a synonym with the bravery, led his men with incredible courage. And despite facing overwhelming odds, he and his troops held this ground. They knew the importance of their position at Tain Dhar, and they were determined not to let it fall. The enemy was throwing everything they had at them, but Naik Singh and his men didn't back down. Imagine the scene, bullets flying, explosion all around, and yet these soldiers stood firm. They fought with everything they had, repelling each attack with sheer determination. Naik Jadunath Singh led from the front, showing what true leadership and bravery look like in the face of danger. This defense at Tain Dhar was not just about holding a position, it was about exemplifying the Indian Army's unwavering spirit. It was a display of courage, resilience, and an unbreakable will to protect their land. Ladies and gentlemen, Naik Jadunath Singh and his troops showed us what it meant to stand up against all odds, making this moment one of the most inspiring stories of the battle. Moving ahead, let's talk about the crucial moment that helped change the course of the Battle of Naushera: the arrival of reinforcement. Picture this. The Indian forces were under immense pressure, facing relentless attack from a well-equipped enemy. And this was a tough situation and every minute counted. And then just when they needed it most, reinforcement arrived. It was a game changer. Fresh troops, more supplies and additional firepower came in to bolster the Indian Army's defenses. This was not just about numbers, it was about bringing in much needed energy and support to exhaust soldiers who had been holding the line against all odds. The timing could not have been better. With the reinforcement, the Indian Army suddenly had the strength to launch a counter-offensive. They didn't just hold their ground, they pushed back. The fresh troops brought new momentum, allowing the Indian forces to turn the tide of the battle. This was not just a tactical advantage, it was a morale booster. The arrival of reinforcement showed that the Indian Army was committed to winning the battle, no matter what. It gave the soldier on the front lines renewed confidence and determination. And with this strength, they were able to counter the enemy offensive and regain control, proving once again that they were ready to fight and defend Naushera till the very end. Now let's focus on the pivotal moment in the Battle of Naushera, the decisive victory at Tain Dhar. Imagine this: the Indian Army, outnumbered and facing relentless attack, managed to hold their ground against all odds. Ladies and gentlemen, Tain Dhar was one of the key defensive positions, and losing it could have changed the entire course of the battle. But the Indian troops, with their unmatched bravery and determination, were not about to let this happen. Despite the enemy's relentless assault, they stood their ground and fought back fiercely. It was a test of strength, strategy, and sheer willpower. And here is the incredible part: the Indian Army didn't just defend Tain Dhar, they achieved a decisive victory there. This was not just a moment of holding the line, it was about pushing back, about showing tactical brilliance and resilience. The soldiers used every bit of their training, their knowledge of the terrain, and their unbreakable spirit to outmaneuver and outfight the enemy. This victory at Tain Dhar was a turning point. It showed the Indian Army ability to adapt and respond under pressure, proving their tactical prowess. More importantly, it highlighted their resilience in the face of adversity. This win was not just a tactical success, it was a powerful statement of the Indian Army's strength and determination to defend their territory no matter what. Moving ahead, now let's talk about the intense fighting that took place at Kot, another crucial moment in the Battle of Naushera. Picture this. Kot was a strategic location in both the Indian and Pakistani forces were desperate to control. It was a key position and neither side was willing to give it up without a fight. The Battle of Kot was fierce and prolonged. Both sides threw everything they had into this engagement. It was brutal, back and forth struggle with soldiers fighting tooth and nail for every inch of the ground. The fighting was relentless, with heavy casualty on both sides as they clashed in close quarters. Imagine the chaos and the intensity. Bullets flying, grenades exploding, and soldiers pushing forward with all their might. The Indian army, determined to hold their ground, faced a tough and aggressive enemy. The Pakistani forces were equally determined, knowing that capturing Kot could give them a significant advantage. But despite the intensity and the heavy loss, the Indian troops held firm. They fought with incredible tenacity and resolve, refusing to let the enemy break through. The battle at Kot was not just about holding a position, it was about showing grit, courage, and an unwavering commitment to defending their territory. In the end, the fierce fighting at Kot became a symbol of determination and resilience of the Indian army. It was a hard-fought engagement, but their ability to stand strong under immense pressure made all the difference in this crucial battle. Now let's talk about another intense phase of the Battle of Naushera: the relentless mortar fire from the Pakistani forces. Imagine this: the Indian positions were under constant attack and the enemy was not holding back. They unleashed the fierce barrage of mortar fire, raining down shells on the Indian troops. The sound of mortars exploding all around, devouring flanks everywhere, and the ground shaking with every impact. It was a terrifying ordeal. The goal was to clear, to weaken the Indian defenses and break their spirit through sheer firepower. The Pakistani forces were trying to test the resilience and capabilities of the Indian army, hoping to force a retreat to cause chaos within their ranks. But here is what is remarkable: despite this relentless mortar fire, the Indian army stood its ground. The soldiers dug in, held their positions, and refused to be intimidated by the constant bombardment. They knew the stakes were high, and they were determined to defend Naushera no matter what. This was not just about withstanding an attack, it was about showing the enemy that the Indian army could not be shaken or broken. Their resilience and defensive capabilities were on the full display, proving that they could endure even the harshest of the assault. It was a powerful demonstration of their strength, discipline, and unwavering commitment to protect their territory. Let's focus on the remarkable defense of the Indian troops at Kot. Picture this: under intense bombardment and facing a relentless enemy assault, the Indian soldiers were in a tough spot. Mortars were raining down, the enemy was pushing hard, and the situation was chaotic. But despite all of this, the Indian troops at Kot stood their ground. They didn't hold back down, not for a moment. The enemy assault was fierce, but the Indian soldiers was even fiercer. They knew the importance of holding Kot. It was a strategic town that they simply could not afford to lose. And so, with every shell that exploded and every push from the enemy, they dug in deeper and fought back harder. This was not just about defending a position, it was about showing what they were made of. The Indian troops at Kot demonstrated incredible bravery and determination. They were out there in the thick of it, refusing to let the enemy advance. Their resolve was unshakable, their spirit unbreakable. The steadfast defense at Kot was more than just a military action. It was a testament to the courage and commitment of the Indian army. In the face of overwhelming odds and relentless attack, they proved they would do whatever it took to protect their territory. This defense was a shining example of their bravery, their determination, and their unwavering dedication to their mission. Moving next, let's delve into another critical moment in the Battle of Naushera, the attack on the Kangota picket. Ladies and gentlemen, the Kangota picket was a vital outpost for the Indian army, strategically located to help protect Naushera. The enemy knew this and decided to make a bold move to break through the defenses. They launched a fierce assault on Kangota, throwing everything they had at the critical outpost. The attack was intense, with the enemy determined to overrun the Indian positions and open a path to capture Naushera. The stakes were incredibly high, and the enemy's objective was clear: take Kangota and use it as a stepping stone to gain control over the strategic town of Naushera. But despite the ferocity of the attack, the Indian soldiers at Kangota stood their ground. They knew that holding this picket was essential to the defense of Naushera. With grit and determination, they fought back against the relentless assault, refusing to let the enemy break through. This engagement at Kangota was not just a skirmish. It was a crucial battle to protect a key defensive position. The Indian Army defense of the Kangota picket showed their tactical awareness and their commitment to protecting every inch of their territory. Their resilience in the face of fierce assault helped ensure that Naushera remained under Indian control, further solidifying their stronghold in this critical region. Moving ahead, now let's talk about the fierce and the brutal fighting that took place at Kangota. Picture this: the battle had escalated to such an intensity that it was not just about exchanging gunfire from a distance anymore. The fight over control over Kangota picket descended into an intense hand-to-hand combat. Imagine the chaos: Indian and Pakistani soldiers locked in close quarters, fighting with everything they had. It was raw, it was personal, and it was brutal. Both sides knew how critical this position was, and neither was willing to back down. The soldiers fought fiercely, using bayonets, rifle, and anything they could find, struggling for every inch of ground. And this was not just a battle of strength, it was a battle of wills. The Indian soldiers, driven by their determination to protect Naushera, fought with the incredible bravery and tenacity. They knew that losing Kangota could mean losing their hold on the region, and they were not about to let that happen. In the end, this hand-to-hand combat was a testament to the grit and resolve of the Indian troops. Despite the ferocity of the enemy, they stood their ground, fighting with everything they had to defend the strategic position. This was a clash that showcased the raw courage and unbreakable spirit of the Indian Army, proving once again that they could do whatever it took to defend their land. Moving next, let's talk about the incredible defense put up by the Indian troops at Kangota. Picture this: after intense hand-to-hand combat and relentless fighting, the Indian soldiers at this critical outpost faced a fierce enemy determined to break through their defenses. The stakes were high and the pressure was immense. But the Indian troops at Kangota didn't falter. With unwavering courage and tactical expertise, they held their ground against the onslaught. Every soldier knew the importance of defending this strategic position, and they fought with everything they had. It was not just about holding a line, it was about refusing to let the enemy gain even an inch. Through their determination and skill, the Indian forces managed to repel the enemy assault. They denied the Pakistani forces a critical victory that could have shifted the balance of the battle. The defense of Kangota was a defining moment, showcasing not just the bravery but also the tactical brilliance of the Indian Army. The repulsion of the attackers was not just a defensive success, it was a statement. It showed that no matter how fierce the enemy was, the Indian troops would not be overpowered. Their resilience at Kangota played a vital role in protecting Naushera, ensuring that this key location remained firmly under Indian control. Moving next, now let's discuss about a pivotal moment in the Battle of Naushera: Brigadier Usman decisive counter-offensive. Picture this: the enemy had gained some momentum with their fierce attack, putting pressure on the Indian defenses. and the situation was tense and the stakes were incredibly high. But Brigadier Usman was not one to sit back and let the enemy dictate the battle. Recognizing the need to turn the tide, he made the bold decision. He ordered a counter-offensive to regain the initiative. And this was not just a defensive maneuver. It was a calculated move to push back the Pakistani forces and reclaim control of the battlefield. With artillery support, the Indian troops launched their counter-attack. The artillery fire was precise and powerful, providing the cover and firepower needed to break the enemy's advance. Under Brigadier Usman's leadership, the Indian soldiers moved forward with determination, hitting the enemy hard and fast. This counter-offensive was not just about regaining lost ground. It was about showing the enemy that the Indian army was not only capable of defending but also of taking the fight to them. It was a display of strategic brilliance and boldness, demonstrating that Brigadier Usman and his troops were ready to do whatever it took to protect Naushera. Ladies and gentlemen, by pushing back the Pakistani forces, the Indian army regained the momentum in the battle, proving once again their resilience, courage, and tactical expertise. This counter-attack was a turning point that reinforced the strength and determination of the Indian troops in defending their land. Now let's shine a light on the heroic action of 3 para-Maratha light infantry during the Battle of Naushera. Picture this. Amidst the intense fighting and chaos, the 3 para-Maratha light infantry regiment was tasked with a critical mission. Their objective? To outflank the enemy and deliver a decisive blow to the Pakistani assault. Executing a flanking maneuver is no small feat. It requires precision, timing, and a deep understanding of the battlefield. But the soldiers of the 3 para-Maratha light infantry were up to the task. Moving swiftly and silently, they managed to outmaneuver the enemy, catching them off guard. And this was not just a straightforward attack, it was a carefully planned and brilliantly executed strategy. With their flanking maneuver, the regiment was able to strike the enemy from the side, disrupting their formation and creating chaos within their ranks. The surprise and speed of their attack was crucial, turning the tide of the battle at a critical moment. The Pakistani forces, caught in a pincer movement, found themselves unable to maintain their offensive. This heroic action by the 3 para-Maratha light infantry was not just about tactical brilliance. It was a display of courage and resolve. And by executing this maneuver with such precision, they delivered a decisive blow to the enemy, helping to repel the assault and secure the Indian army position. Their bravery and skill played a vital role in the success of the battle, showcasing the extraordinary capabilities of the Indian army. Moving next, let's talk about the crucial role of the artillery in the Battle of Naushera. Imagine the battlefield. The Indian army is under heavy pressure and the enemy is gaining ground. At this critical moment, the Indian artillery units spring into action. With precise timing and incredible accuracy, they launch a barrage of artillery fire that changes everything. This was not just random shelling, it was carefully coordinated to disrupt the enemy's momentum and weaken their positions. The artillery bombardment created chaos among the Pakistani forces, breaking their advance and forcing them to regroup. It was like throwing a wrench into the enemy's plan, halting their progress just when they thought they had the upper hand. The impact was immediate and powerful. With the enemy disoriented and on the back foot, the Indian army seized the opportunity. Brigadier Usman troops, bolstered by their effective artillery support, launched a counter-attack that pushed the Pakistani forces back. The artillery fire was not just a supporting act, it was a game changer that set the stage for the Indian army's offensive to succeed. This timely and accurate artillery support demonstrated the Indian Army's ability to coordinate and execute complex operations under pressure. It showed that they were not only defending but actively taking the fight to the enemy. By disrupting the assault and enabling the counterattack, the artillery played a vital role in securing a decisive victory at Naushera. Moving next, let's focus on another key moment in the Battle of Naushera, the capture of Radiant Feature. Under brilliant leadership of Brigadier Usman, the Indian Army launched a coordinated counter-offensive that would turn the tide of the battle. Brigadier Usman knew that regaining the initiative was crucial to thwart the enemy's plan and secure a decisive victory. He carefully orchestrated a well-timed counter-attack aimed at capturing the Radiant Feature, a strategically important position that the enemy had been using to their advantage. This was not just any attack, it was a precise and a calculated move. Brigadier Usman's strategic leadership ensured that every unit was in place and that the timing of the assault was perfect. The Indian troops, driven by their determination and boosted by their effective artillery support, advanced with confidence and cohesion. The counter-attack was a success. The Indian forces managed to outflank the Pakistani troops, pushing them back and capturing the Radiant Feature. This victory was not just about reclaiming a position, it was about regaining control of the battlefield and demonstrating the strength and the resilience of the Indian Army. Ladies and gentlemen, by capturing the Radiant Feature, Brigadier Usman and his troops effectively disrupted the enemy's plan and gained a significant tactical advantage. This coordinated counter-attack showcased the strategic brilliance and leadership of the Brigadier Usmans, proving once again that Indian Army was capable of turning the tide in their favor through skill, courage, and determination. Moving next, let's highlight one of the most daring action of the Battle of Naushera, the heroic infantry charge by the 3 Para Maratha Light Infantry Regiment. Picture this. The battlefield is intense, with the enemy pushing hard and the stakes incredibly high. The Indian troops needed to make a bold move to change the course of the fight. And that's exactly what the 3 Para Maratha Light Infantry did. With remarkable bravery and precision, they executed a daring flanking maneuver. This was not just a straightforward attack, it was a carefully planned move to outsmart the enemy. Moving swiftly and silently, they managed to outflank the Pakistani forces, catching them completely off guard. The regiment's charge was more than just a tactical move. It was a decisive blow to the Pakistani assault. And by striking from the side, they disrupted the enemy's formation and created chaos among their ranks. This surprise attack not only halted the enemy's momentum, but also forced them to retreat. The 3 Para Maratha Light Infantry flanking maneuver was a game changer. It showcased their courage, skill, and tactical expertise. Their ability to execute such a bold move under intense pressure demonstrated the strength and determination of the Indian Army. This heroic charge played a crucial role in turning the tide of the battle, delivering a significant blow to the enemy and securing a vital victory for India. Moving next, let's talk about the pivotal role of the artillery in the Battle of Naushera, which proved to be a game changer for the Indian Army. Ladies and gentlemen, picture this. The battlefield was chaotic, with the enemy forces gaining ground and momentum. It was a tense moment, and something had to be done to turn the tide. That's when the Indian artillery units stepped in with precision and perfect timing. The artillery bombardment was not just a show of force, it was a calculated and accurate strike aimed at disrupting the enemy's advance. The shells rained down on the enemy position, causing confusion and breaking their formation. This was not a random fire. Every shot was carefully targeted to maximize its impact. The accurate and timely artillery support effectively shattered the enemy's momentum, forcing them to pause and regroup. It was the exact opening the Indian Army needed. With the enemy thrown off balance, the Indian troops launched a powerful counterattack. The artillery had done its job, creating the conditions necessary for a successful offensive. This coordinated effort between the ground troops and the artillery units demonstrated the Indian Army ability to adapt quickly and work in unison under pressure. The decisive artillery support was not just about firepower, it was about strategic brilliance. It provided the critical fire support that disrupted the enemy, allowing the Indian Army to regain the initiative and push back. This move was essential in securing a key victory in the battle, showcasing the Indian Army tactical expertise and resilience. Let's explore the combined power of artillery and air support that played a crucial role in the Battle of Naushera. Ladies and gentlemen, picture the battlefield. The enemy forces are advancing and the situation is intense. The Indian Army needed a decisive edge to turn the tide, and that's when artillery and air support came into play. First, the artillery units stepped up with precision. They launched a series of accurate and timely bombardments, hitting the enemy positions hard. This was not just random shelling, it was a carefully coordinated attack that targeted key areas to disrupt the enemy's momentum. The constant barrage created chaos among the Pakistani forces, breaking their formation and forcing them to retreat. But that's not all. In addition to the artillery, the Indian force provided close air support, swooping in to outstrike enemy positions from above. The aircraft delivered precise attack, targeting enemy troops and equipments with deadly accuracy. The combination of artillery fire from the ground and air strikes from above created a formidable assault that the enemy simply could not withstand. This effective use of artillery and air support was a game changer. It not only provided critical fire support but also enabled the Indian Army to launch a powerful counter-attack. With the enemy's advance disrupted and their force in disarray, the Indian troops seized the opportunity to push back and regain control. Ladies and gentlemen, the synergy between the ground forces, artillery and air support showcased the Indian Army's ability to coordinate complex operations under pressure. It was this combined effort that helped secure a decisive victory, demonstrating the strength and strategic capability of the Indian military in the face of adversity. Alright, let's talk about the critical and daring operation by the Royal Indian Air Force during the Battle of Naushera. Imagine this. Indian troops on the ground were facing relentless enemy attacks. They were holding their positions bravely, but they needed more supplies and reinforcement to keep up the fight. Enter the Royal Indian Air Force with a bold plan. The Royal Indian Air Force decided to conduct aerial resupply operations. Parachute drops right into the thick of the battle. Picture the scene. Aircraft flying low over a dangerous combat zone, dodging enemy fire and dropping vital supplies directly to the soldiers below. And this was not just any supply run, it was a high-stake mission to ensure that the troops had what they needed to continue defending Naushera. These parachute drops were not just about delivering ammunition or food, they were about delivering hope and strength to the soldiers on the front lines. Every successful drop meant that the Indian troops received the critical resources they needed to hold the ground against the enemy relentless assault. It was a lifeline that kept them fighting, kept them strong. But the Royal Indian Air Force did not stop there. They also brought in reinforcements, fresh troops ready to join the fight, and this was crucial. With the extra manpower and supplies, the Indian Army could withstand the pressure, regroup, and continue their defense with renewed energy. The aerial resupply operation by the Royal Indian Air Force were more than just a logistical achievement. They were a testament to the courage and coordination of the Indian forces. These missions showed that every part of the military was working together. committed to supporting the troops on the ground and ensuring that Naushera stayed in the Indian hands. It was a brilliant example of teamwork and bravery, making all the difference in the battle's outcome. Now let's dive into how crucial the parachuted supplies were during the Battle of Naushera. The Indian troops were fiercely defending their positions against relentless enemy attacks. The situation was intense. They needed more than just courage, they needed supplies and reinforcement to keep fighting. And that's exactly when the Royal Indian Air Force came into play with their parachute drop operation. Imagine those planes soaring over the battlefield under threat of enemy fire and dropping vital supplies right where they were needed most. This was not just a delivery, it was a lifeline. A timely arrival of these supplies was a game changer for the troops on the ground, and these parachuted supplies included everything from ammunition to medical supplies, food and equipment. Every drop meant that Indian soldiers could hold their defensive position longer and stronger. It was not just about survival, it was about maintaining their ground against determined enemy. And there was more. Along with the supplies reinforcement were the parachuted in, bringing fresh energy and strength to the front lines. These new troops were crucial in helping the Indian Army withstand the intense pressure they were facing. But here is the key part. Because of these timely parachuted supplies and reinforcements, the Indian Army didn't just hold their positions, they were able to regroup, plan, and eventually launch a powerful counter-offensive. This counterattack pushed the Pakistani forces back and turned the tide of the battle in favor of India. So the impact of those parachuted supplies, absolutely decisive. They were the backbone of Indian Army resilience and their ability to not just defend but to go on the offensive. It was a perfect example of how timely support and strategic coordination can change the course of a battle, showcasing the strength and unity of the Indian forces in action. Moving next, let's talk about the outcome of the Battle of Naushera and the impact it had on both sides. This was a fierce and intense battle, as with any major conflict, and it came at a heavy cost. The Pakistani forces suffered significant casualties, with over 3,000 soldiers killed or wounded. This came in with a strong offensive, but the Indian Army was prepared, and their response was both fierce and effective. Despite being under constant attack, the Indian troops managed to inflict heavy losses on the enemy. Onto the Indian sides, the cost was also high. Around 1,500 brave soldiers were lost in the battle, highlighting the intensity of the fighting. Every inch of the ground was hard fought, and the Indian soldiers displayed incredible bravery and resilience throughout the conflict. Now here is what is important to understand. Despite the heavy losses, the loop side outcome, where the enemy suffered twice as many casualties as Indian forces, says a lot about the battle. It highlights the superior training, tactics, and the discipline of the Indian Army. They were able to withstand the enemy's relentless assault, holding their ground, and ultimately push back with a successful counter-offensive. This outcome was not just about numbers. It was about demonstrating the strength and effectiveness of the Indian military. The ability to inflict such significant damage on a well-equipped enemy force while maintaining their own positions showed that the Indian troops were not only courageous but also strategically superior. The Battle of Naushera was a testament to their skill, preparation, and unwavering spirit, making it a defining moment in the conflict. Moving next, let's break down why the victory at Naushera was such a game changer for India in 1947-48 conflict. Ladies and gentlemen, Naushera was not just another town, it was a vital strategic location that acted as a gateway to the Kashmir Valley. Whoever controlled Naushera had a significant advantage in the region. So by triumphing at the Naushera, the Indian army did more than just win a battle. They secured a critical stronghold. This victory denied the Pakistani forces access to the Kashmir Valley, which was a primary objective for them. If the enemy had broken through, it could have drastically changed the course of conflict. But the Indian Army's success in defending Naushera ensured that didn't happen. This victory was not just about holding a position, it was about strengthening India's defensive posture in the region. By keeping Naushera secure, the Indian Army solidified their control over key supply routes and strategic points, making it much harder for the enemy to advance. But here is the bigger picture. The win at Naushera was a crucial turning point in the conflict. It was not just a tactical success, it was a powerful demonstration of India's military capabilities. The battle showed that Indian army was not only capable of defending its territory, but also of taking decisive action to protect its interest. This victory boosted morale and showcased the strength, resilience, and strategic brilliance of the Indian force. It sent a clear message to the enemy and the world. India was ready and able to defend its sovereignty against any aggression. The triumph at Naushera was more than just a battle won. It was a defining moment that helped shape the outcome of the conflict. Moving next, let's paint a picture of what happened right after the Battle of Naushera. Imagine the scene. The dust has settled and the Indian army stand victorious, having successfully defended the town against a fierce enemy assault. The battlefield is now under Indian control and the troops were working quickly to consolidate their positions. In the aftermath of battle, the Indian army moved swiftly to secure Naushera and the surrounding areas. This was not just about holding a piece of land, it was about making sure they could maintain a strong defensive posture in the region. The soldiers fortified their positions, set up strategic checkpoints, and made sure that they were ready for any further attacks. This victory at Naushera was more than just a single win. It allowed the Indian forces to stabilize the front lines and prepare for the next phase of the conflict. With Naushera securely under Indian control, the army could plan their next move with confidence. They were able to regroup, resupply, and reinforce their positions, knowing they had a critical stronghold that would serve as a base for future operations. The post-battle situation at Naushera was not just about immediate gains, it was about long-term strategy. So by securing this town, the Indian army ensured they could continue to defend the Kashmir Valley from further aggression. This victory gave them a breathing room they needed to prepare for upcoming engagements, proving that the Indian military was not only resilient but also ready to adapt and respond to the evolving conflict. Moving next, let's talk about some lessons learned. Let's dive into one of the key lessons from the Battle of Naushera: the vital importance of the intelligence and preparedness. Imagine this. The Indian army was facing a well-equipped and determined enemy, and the stakes were incredibly high. Defending Naushera, a critical strategic location, was not going to be easy. It required more than just courage. It required meticulous planning and detailed intelligence. This is where Brigadier Usman's leadership truly shone. He understood that to defend Naushera effectively, the Indian army needed to be one step ahead of the enemy. So he focused on gathering as much intelligence as possible. Every piece of information about the enemy's movement, tactics, and strength was analyzed and used to shape the Indian army's defensive strategy. Brigadier Usman's careful planning ensured that the troops were not only well positioned but also well prepared for what was to come. The Indian soldiers knew what to expect and were ready to face the challenges head on. This preparation made all the difference when the enemy launched their fierce assault. The battle demonstrated that having accurate intelligence and being thoroughly prepared can turn the tide in even the most difficult situations. It was not just about reacting to the enemy's move, it was about anticipating them and being ready with a strong response. The success at Naushera highlighted the critical role of intelligence and preparedness in military operations. Brigadier Usman approach ensured that Indian Army was not caught off guard and could effectively defend these vital locations. It is a powerful reminder that in conflict, knowing your enemy and being prepared for any scenario is often the key to victory. Moving next, let's talk about another crucial lesson from the Battle of Naushera: the effective use of reserve and support units. Picture this: the Indian troops were in the thick of the battle, facing a relentless enemy offensive. The situation was intense and the outcome hung in the balance. This is when the strategic use of reinforcement and support units became a game changer. The timely arrival of reinforcements played a pivotal role in bolstering the Indian forces. Fresh troops brought in much needed energy and strength, allowing the Indian Army to reinforce their lines and continue holding their ground against the enemy assault. But it was not just about manpower. The accurate artillery support was equally vital. The Indian artillery units, with their precise and well-timed bombardments, disrupted the enemy's momentum. The artillery fire created chaos within the enemy's ranks, breaking their advance and giving the Indian forces the breathing room they needed to regroup and plan a counterattack. So by combining these elements, reserves and support units, the Indian Army was able to turn the tide of the battle. They didn't just survive the enemy's offensive, they pushed back, launching a powerful counterattack that regained control of the battlefield. This effective use of reserve and support units demonstrated the importance of flexibility and adaptability in the military strategy. The ability to quickly reinforce and provide critical support under pressure was key to the Indian Army's success at Naushera. It showed that having a well-coordinated response with both manpower and firepower can make all the difference in the heat of the battle. Moving next on tactical and strategic insights, let's break down the tactical and strategic insight gained from the Battle of Naushera, a defining moment for the Indian Army. Ladies and gentlemen, the Indian forces were up against a well-prepared and aggressive enemy, determined to capture a critical strategic location. The stakes could not have been higher and the pressure was immense. But the Indian Army, under skilled leadership, demonstrated exceptional tactical prowess. They were not just reacting to the enemy's move, they were anticipating them, using their intelligence and preparation to stay one step ahead. The defense of Naushera was not just about holding a position, it was about understanding the enemy's strategy and countering it effectively. The Indian Army's ability to maintain their defensive positions under intense assault showed their resilience and determination. They used every advantage they had: terrain, intelligence, and well-timed reinforcements to hold off the enemy's advances. And this resilience, my friend, was not just physical, it was a mental toughness that kept them focused and prepared for whatever came next. But it didn't stop there. When the moment was right, the Indian Army launched a decisive counter-offensive, catching the enemy off guard and pushing them back. This was not just a bold move, it was a careful, calculated strike that demonstrated strategic brilliance. And by seizing the initiative and turning defense into offense, the Indian troops showed that they could not only withstand pressure but also take control of the battlefield. The success at Naushera provided valuable tactical and strategic insight that could foreshadow the Indian Army later achievement in the war. It highlighted their ability to adapt, respond, and dominate in challenging conditions, setting the stage for future victories and proving their capability to protect their territory against any threat. Moving next, let's wrap up by focusing on the significance of Battle of Naushera. Ladies and gentlemen, this battle was more than just a military engagement. It was a critical turning point in the conflict between India and Pakistan. The Indian Army's victory at Naushera was not just about defeating the enemy on the battlefield. It was about demonstrating their military prowess and strategic acumen. The success at Naushera showcased the Indian Army ability to defend a vital strategic location against a determined and a well-equipped adversary. Through meticulous planning, effective use of intelligence, and the coordinated effort of ground troops and support units, the Indian forces were able to hold their ground and then launch a decisive counter-offensive. This victory did more than just secure Naushera. It sent a powerful message. It boosted Indian national morale, showing the people of India that military was capable and ready to protect the nation's sovereignty. The triumph at the Naushera provided that India could stand firm against aggression and turn the tide in their favor, even under the most challenging circumstances. In the larger context of the conflict, the Battle of Naushera was a defining moment that highlighted the strength, resilience, and tactical brilliance of the Indian Army. It set the tone for the future engagement and established a foundation of confidence and determination that would carry through the rest of the war. Moving next, let's delve into the strategic significance of Indian Army triumph at Naushera. This was not just a battle, it was a crucial moment that had a profound impact on the overall conflict. Ladies and gentlemen, securing Naushera was a game changer. This town was not just any location, it was a vital gateway to the Kashmir Valley. Whoever controlled Naushera had a strategic advantage, and the Indian Army victory here meant that they effectively shut down a critical route for the Pakistani forces. By denying the enemy's access to the Kashmir Valley, India was able to protect this crucial region from further incursion. The victory at Naushera did more than just prevent the enemy from advancing. It significantly bolstered the India's defensive position in the region. And with Naushera firmly under Indian control, the army could fortify its positions, secure supply routes, and prepare for any future engagements. This stronghold gave India a strategic upper hand, allowing the military to better control the region and safeguard the territory. In the grand scheme of the conflict, the triumph at the Naushera was a pivotal moment. It not only demonstrated the Indian Army tactical skill and preparedness, but also reinforced their ability to defend the key strategic locations. And by securing Naushera, the Indian forces ensured the security of Kashmir Valley and strengthened their overall position in the war, making this victory a critical turning point in the fight for control of the region. Moving next, let's reflect on the lasting legacy of the Battle of Naushera. This battle was more than a momentary victory. It became a symbol of Indian Army tactical prowess and resilience, marking a significant chapter in the history of the conflict. The success at Naushera showcased the Indian Army ability to effectively plan, adapt, and execute under pressure. Faced with a determined and a well-equipped enemy, the Indian troops demonstrated exceptional courage and strategic brilliance. They not only defended a crucial position but also managed to turn the tide with a decisive counteroffensive, highlighting their capability to dominate in the even most challenging circumstances. The battle also left a powerful legacy that inspired future generations. It became a story of courage, leadership, and unyielding spirit, showing that with determination and strategic planning, even the toughest battle could be won. Friends, here we come to the end of part 4 of chapter 7. Please do like, share, and subscribe among your friends. And don't forget to share your email for the question and answer series. Thank you and stay tuned.